Okay, welcome back to my channel. This is a super late video, but I'm gonna be doing my favorite reads of 2025. This is in no particular order, just in order that I read them. So my favorite thing that I read, or one of my favorite things that I read in 2025 was Babel. What to say about Babel that hasn't already been said? Like, it's a masterpiece. It tackles the root of colonialism so well. It tackles how historically POC have been exploited and used as economic and political gain for white people. I think Arif Kwan did such a great job at not beating around the bush and not trying to like make the reader guess like who's in the wrong here when there's a clear set of people that are in the wrong. Because why do we need to beat around the bush? Why do we have to make it like metaphorical, like these are the people that are in the wrong, these are the people that have been continuously targeting people of color and using them to their own gain, and there's nothing to really beat around the bush about that. I listened to the audiobook and I love the audiobook personally because it had two different narrators, the main narrator, and I love the main narrator's voice, and then it had the narrator for the footnotes, which I also really love the sound of their voice. I also really love the emphasis on how history is so repetitive when we don't learn from our mistakes, which if we're, up to date with current news, it kind of shows that we don't learn ever. We don't learn from our mistakes. So things will always continuously repeat, and we'll see similar patterns that we saw in the past, and just like in the past, people choose to ignore them for some reason, and it's super disheartening. And yeah, anyways, I love this book. I love the main character. I love the amount of foreshadowing this book had, and then after you read it you're like, oh my god, this and this was all freaking foreshadowing, and I just wasn't okay after I read that. And I love all the characters, and I love the way they were executed. And yeah, the next book I really loved was 1,000 Splendid Suns. It takes place in Afghanistan and follows the story of two women whose lives suddenly start to merge into one due to conflicts of war, specifically due to Taliban regime. This book was literally heartbreaking. I don't even want to think about it. It was also really hard to read at times, and check trigger warnings. I don't know. It really just does depict the brutality of war and the brutality of the Taliban regime. But it also has lots of hints of hope and love and sisterhood between these two women. And I think it just depicts the way life has been so unfair to them both. Specifically Mariam. Life has been so unfair to them, and through all of that they still managed to find some semblance of love and that semblance of sisterhood between each other. I think it is hopeful in that way that, no matter how hard things are, there's always like a little bit of light in there. Or I don't know what I'm saying, but that book was really sad. And if you want to be emotionally tortured, go ahead and read it, and you'll probably cry, but it's a perfect book. Like, it's everything. Following that book, I also read the book Kite Runner by the same author, and Kite Runner was also emotionally scarring, and it traumatized me a little. And it follows the story of a boy who is friends with another boy, and in their childhood he does something that is really irredeemable and hard to forgive. And it's just seeing him grow up with that guilt instilled in him during times of war. And I think the moral of the story is that no matter where you are in your life, and no matter how many things you've been through, how many things you've done to others, that doesn't mean you stop trying to be a good person. And there's always room to change and become a much better version of yourself. And I guess, yeah, redeem yourself in some way. Even if your actions will forever have that lasting impact, you can't let that guilt eat you up, and you always have to try to be a better person. Honestly, it's so sad. It's heartbreaking, and for you 1,000 times over. The next book I really love that people do not read enough is called Sweet Bean Paste. It follows the story of an unlikely friendship between a man that sells dorayaki at this little like dorayaki shop, and this woman that starts working there that is much older than he is, and she has a condition with her hands. I think it's called leprosy. I'm sorry, I'm gonna put it right here because I can't remember right now. She has this condition with her hands, and they form this very unique friendship between them, in which she often, you know, teaches him new things, gives him new perspectives on life, and he's kind of like depressed, low key. So I feel like he really needed to find someone like this in his life, which I love stories like that where, you know, someone comes into your life and just like completely changes your perspective on it. The book tackles different social stigmas and the way certain people and certain conditions in life already have these stigmas connected to it that are so harsh that people don't want to look beyond it and look beyond to the actual person. I think the book is about overcoming these social stigmas and overcoming these biases that you have in your head about other people, and learning to look at life through a different lens, and learning to be open to different perspectives and to do things a different way, even though it's not what you've been taught and it's not what you've been told, but learning to do things differently. Yeah, it's always about opening up your mind and opening yourself up to new people and different kinds of people that you never met before. But yeah, I think it's such a wholesome read, and I just thought it was really cute. Also, I love books that center around food, because I feel like I've talked about this before, but food is such a cultural thing, I feel like, and a lot of times certain foods hold a lot of sentimental value to your culture and the way you bond with other people. I feel like sitting down to eat with someone can be such an intimate experience. Yeah, I just love when books center around food. And yeah, the next book I read that I really enjoyed reading, and also that I thought was such an important read, was Minor Details. It's told in two different parts and in two different perspectives. The first is the perspective of an Israeli soldier. They have just kidnapped this Arab Palestinian woman, and all the Israeli soldiers proceed to SA her, which ultimately leads to her death. The second part and the second perspective is told 25 years later from the perspective of a news reporter who gets really obsessed with the case of this Arab Palestinian girl that was murdered 25 years prior, and she wants to find out the exact details of what happened to this girl. And I think it's such an important read, and really tells a story of how Israelis have treated Palestinians historically for centuries, for years, has been nothing short of atrocious. I think it also really reiterates the fact that history is so repetitive, because again, we don't learn anything, so things that happened in the past will proceed to happen again because we don't learn from the past and we don't make changes to further ourselves into a better state of world. I thought it was such an important read, and I really recommend it. And I also think a lot of the metaphors that were used in the book were so smart and so well executed that I honestly still think about them all the time. It's really short too. It was only like maybe 200 pages, and I thought it was brilliant, so I really recommend it to everybody. And the last book that I read that I really loved is called Open Waters, and it really tackles what it's like to live in the Black experience, what it's like to be a Black person and have so much deep-rooted fear instilled into you from a very young age, and how that often translates and goes into different aspects of your life. I think the book did a great job at uplifting Black voices, uplifting Black art, uplifting Black love, telling a story that is very honest and simultaneously very raw and open. I think the story is also about the fact that you can't fully love someone if you don't fully love yourself. It also really tackles male vulnerability and learning to acknowledge why you feel a certain way and where it all roots from. I love the book. I thought it was so good, and I thought the way they approached the topic of love was so well done. It was told in second perspective, which I've never read a book like that, and I really loved it. And oh my goodness, it was so poetically written too, which I also love, because I love when books are written very poetically. And the whole book just felt like a piece of art to me, like I was looking into a piece of art. which is so representative of what the book is trying to tell, and the way the book is trying to uplift black art and trying to uplift black artists. So I thought it was really well written and well done, and I loved it so much. Okay, those were my favorite books of 2025, and I recommend every single book on this list and think you guys should read all of them. And yeah, thanks for listening.